Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Suzette Speaks Show. I must tell you, I am brimming with anticipation for tonight's guest. Yes, this is probably one of the biggest episodes of the Suzette Speaks Show yet. I have the newly minted head coach of Grambling State University, the one and only Hue Jackson, with me here tonight. I want to thank him for coming through and spending some time with us. If you don't know a lot about football, that's okay. We're going to talk personal development. We're going to talk what he plans to do at this historic and very storied program. I want to know about his journey from the NFL now to a head coaching position at this incredible HBCU. We're going to be talking about the development of young African-American men. As you guys know, I'm very passionate about bringing our community together and uplifting our community. And one of the big things that we talked about on our last show, if you didn't watch it, go back and watch Saving Our Youth, is that there are a lot of young men that get, what should I say, focused on hopefully making it one day to the NFL, but the majority of these young men will not. So what do you do? How do you guide young people so that they understand that they must put their heart and soul towards this sport in college athletics in order to be successful, but also to plan for their future beyond football, beyond college athletics, and hopefully to become a well-rounded human being? I'm super excited. Stand up, all the football fans. I am going to try my best to sound like I know what I'm talking about. I do mostly. I do watch some NFL, some college football, and I'm going to be a student tonight along with many of you as I learn more about this incredible human being, his journey in both the pros and now at the college level, what his plans are for Grambling State University, how he's going to approach this head coaching job as opposed to what it was like in the NFL, and so much more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the like button as you come in. Tonight's exclusive one-on-one with Coach Hue Jackson hopefully will be a good one. I need you guys in the chat. I need you guys to say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you are Team Replay, shout out to everyone watching on Team Replay. Again, hit the like button. So you guys know, if you're brand new, I'm Suzette Speaks, and I do a lot of different types of interviews. I love personal development. I love current events, news stories, and some legal topics as an attorney as well. But this interview, I hope to explore a little bit more about what the path is like for an HBCU athlete. There are a lot of young people who are choosing now to play at historically Black colleges and universities. There was the Deion Sanders, and now the Eddie George, and now we're adding to that list Coach Hue Jackson, who are now bringing the spotlight to an HBCU as a prime college. We know that we have incredible students there and incredible athletes there. I think we had about, Coach, you might correct me, I think 5 HBCU students drafted in the NFL draft. So there's more to an HBCU than just their college football program. But tonight, because we have a very special guest, we're going to focus on athletics. And then we're going to hopefully get some of your questions for Coach Hue Jackson. But before we bring him up, let me say hello to the chat. Welcome, the world class. I see you. Thank you so much. He says, hit the like button and the notification bell and subscribe. I'm excited to have him here. For you guys who are not football fans, bear with me because I am going to try to sound like one. I'm going to make myself a student tonight. And as I said before, this is something that is near and dear to my heart because it becomes a conversation about the development of the human being, the full athlete, right? Not just the person on the field, but the person off the field. He also has a nonprofit, y'all, that I want to make sure we highlight and talk about. And he is super, super busy. So I'm grateful that on his, I think, week of right before play, he's made time to come through on the Suzette Speaks show. Thank you, K Business Podcast in the building. This is a great guest, he says. I have followed Hue Jackson when he coached in Baltimore. Shout out to UK Business Podcast. Thank you so much for coming through and showing some love. Sandy B. Law in the chat. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Says, love the locks, girl. I'm going on vacation on Friday. Yes. Jamaica is calling my name. This is one of my last shows, and I saved the best for last. And I also have Tobias the Traveler on Wednesday talking about his trip to Medellin, Colombia, and what happened to him there. But shout out to my fellow lady lawyer, Miami attorney Sandy B. Law. Thank you for coming through. JT Coins. Thank you for coming through. Appreciate you for being here. Already a super chat. Thank you very much. Glad to be here in the house, says JT. Coin rings. All right. Without further ado, y'all know again, I am about personal development. I'm about hearing from people who have made a mark on this earth. And hopefully he's going to teach while we explore what his new role entails. If you guys are not familiar with Coach Hue Jackson, this is the school he's at, Grambling State University. It is located in Louisiana. Again, storied football history. We're going to go over some of that. He's stepping into some very big shoes as the 14th coach of Grambling State. As I posted it on social media, I got a lot of feedback. New people were chiming in. Let me know. Let's go. I think they call themselves Gram Fam. Shout out to the Gram Fam watching and everyone who is just a fan of human beings who are trying to have an impact on other people in a positive way. You will see that Coach in our description. I've left some of his history, has coached in the NFL, but it was breaking news back in, I believe, November 2021, when he was named the head coach of Grambling State University. And I'll tell you why that is super, super important. Again, the winningest coach in all of college football. That includes historically Black universities and mainstream universities, coached at Grambling State University. So they have a history of pride and impact. And shout out to the Tigers, who are now allowing this gentleman to take the helm and lead them into the 2022 season. So without further ado, y'all welcome the one, the only Coach Hue Jackson to the Suzette Speaks show. I'm so proud of him. I see you switching your devices. Ain't no problem, Coach. Here we go. How are you?
I'm doing great, Suzette. First of all, thank you for having me on. And I have learned so much about you. You're doing a tremendous job of bringing people together to learn about all these spectacular things that are going on in our world, and also some of the bad things that are going on in our world.
Yeah, we got to keep people, aware. And I want to give people like you opportunity to have a platform to talk about what you're doing in terms of shaping and building the lives of young men. So before we get into all that, shout out to the chat. Again, shout out to JT Coin Rings. Listen, we're not picking sides here. Wonderful 34 cents. Woo Jackson State University class 91. Okay, that's all right. We're going to have some differences tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yes,
Welcome, Orlando. Coach Eddie Robinson. Yes, that's who I was referring to. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. He says proud of you. Okay, so he is now maybe a little bit deferential tonight, just as our special guest. But I want to welcome you, sir, and I want to thank you for your time and being here as a part of the Suzette Speaks show tonight. But before we get into some football, can you please introduce yourself to the folks?
I'm Hue Jackson. Been an NFL, two-time NFL head coach, now the head coach at Grambling State University. Very proud of that. Been in the walk of sports for a long time. I'm also a part tequila company owner. I do have a nonprofit, the Hue Jackson Foundation, that deals in human trafficking. So I've walked a lot of steps in my life. Very excited to be where I am today, and excited to make an impact on these young men at Grambling State University.
Yes, sir. I'm grateful again for your time and saying yes. I want to start out by just asking you, Why HBCU and why now?
Suzette, I would say to you, why not? And I
Mm,
do. I say that a lot because you can see the excitement about the HBCU space. There's Deion Sanders, there's Eddie George, there's Coach Simmons, who's over at FAMU.
mm.
There's so many really good coaches. So it's not really about just myself. It's really about men who've made a decision to go into the HBCU space and make it great again. At one point in time, the HBCUs is where the great players came from. Grambling State has 4 NFL Hall of Famers that played on their campus, that played in the National Football League, and that's more than most of these Power Fives can even say they have. So at one time, the HBCU space is where the great players came from. And boy, I'd like to go back and leave a legacy there.
Well, talking and without the mute. Okay, amazing. And I know there are so many people who are cheering you on. This is a big deal. And so were you overwhelmed? I don't know if I can ask you that because the pressure of stepping into the shoes of the past coaches, especially Eddie Robinson, where people think Grambling, they think winningest coach ever in American collegiate football history. So there's a lot of pressure with that. Did you feel that sense of pressure when you said yes?
I do. I feel the sense of pressure of restoring the rich tradition and history that has been there because Grambling State has been seen as the king of the HBCU. So what I needed to do is make sure I wanted to wear those shoes and following somebody like the great Eddie G. Robinson. Coach Fobbs did a fantastic job. And I can't take nothing away from the other coaches that coached there and Doug Williams. There was so many other coaches that coached before my opportunity here. But at the same time, as you said, I had to really think through it and say, is this the challenge that you want? And I'll say it again to you, why not? Why not go to a place that had it figured out at one time and do everything you can to put it back? What a great way to leave your coaching legacy as you begin to move out of this game. So there's no question it's the right time for me. It's the right opportunity. I'm very excited about it.
I'm so excited for you, Coach. So, what changes have you already made or will you be making to kind of start uh, pointing this program, as you say, shifting it back to its glory days? What are some of the changes you've started to implement?
I think the first changes that I made is I wanted it to be different for our student athletes when they walked in the building. So where their meeting rooms were, it's changed. Where their lockers were, it changed. The paint, all those things that they were used to seeing, it all changed. It needed to. I didn't want them to come back and see things that were very familiar that was, tied to the past. So you have to go and make those changes. I just thank the university for allowing me to make those changes. And there's still things we need to do as we continue to move forward.
Absolutely. I think there are people that are watching with bated breath. The chat is letting you know, yes, Coach was a great coach with the Ravens. Hello, somebody. Thank you, K Business Podcast. Boy Black says, we miss you in Oakland. And thanks for your dedication to football. Thank you, Boy Black. John Tagg chimes in and says, Coach, can he comment? We get y'all gonna let me run the show though. Y'all gonna let me do the show. Says, can he comment on the discrimination lawsuit? We're lawsuit with Coach Brian Flores. We done a show on him back when he first filed it. My legal mind always likes to tap in when I see big headlines. And of course, being from Miami, the Dolphins' former head coach has filed a lawsuit several months ago now, alleging discrimination and that there were no, at the time, head coaches in the NFL, or has he moved on from paying attention to the league news? Come on now, John. Say, can you let him know? He has other big plans. I hear you, but he says Raider Nation. Would you like to address that, Coach?
First of all, Raider Nation's always been near and dear to my heart. Al Davis gave me my first opportunity to become a head coach in the National Football League. I was his last head coach. I had an unbelievable relationship with him. We had 2 really good years there. I think we were on the cusp of doing something really special, but it didn't work out. I mean, his son felt like he needed to do something different, and I respect that. And so you move on. But boy, the fans, the players, the environment, Oakland, boy, it was fantastic and it was electric, and I will remember that for the rest of my life.
So about the lawsuit, do you want to talk anything about Mr. Flores' lawsuit at all?
Well, I think Brian Kelly, I commend him for standing up and speaking out and trying to do everything he can to make it better for African American men. And I don't know many people that know this is going to be, I think, the 102-year history of the National Football League. And there's only been 23, I believe now, or 24 minority head coaches in the history of the league.
Wow.
Okay. And I've done it twice.
Yeah.
So, and I was a part of, I had my fight with the National Football League as well. I mean, there's a Sports Illustrated article that people can go back and read if they like to, but I've kind of moved on from it. I got a football team that I got to coach coming up here starting next week, and I'm excited about coaching my team.
I love it. So yes, guys, he's quite aware that we still have some ways to go in terms of diversity and inclusion, but he has a job to do. So we're going to focus right now on some of the changes he is starting to implement. So tell us what your expectations are for this year. What can we expect this season?
We're going to win.
All right.
I mean, Suzette, I can't take a job and go there and say, well, we hope that we're gonna be okay. We hope to show up. This is Grambling, baby. That's what Grambling does. Grambling wins. And so I took the job with the idea that I need to get to winning as fast as I can. And so in order to do that, you get to go recruit, you got to go find the right people that fit your profile and do the things that you want to do as an offensive coach and defensive coach and special teams coach. And I think we were able to do that. Now we have some work to do when we go to training camp of putting all these pieces together. But I have a pretty good idea of how we can mesh that together to get to winning as fast as we can. Our first game is September the 3rd at Arkansas State, and I'm looking forward to it.
I love it. So is there a different freedom now? A head coaching position like Grambling presents where you can have they allowed you to kind of just do what you would like to do?
It's not, so it's not just do what you like to do. The difference is when you coach in the National Football League, you have a GM that you have to answer to, and he gets to pick the players. It all depends on what's in the contract. Yeah. And where I was, the GM got to pick the players, and the owner had a hand in it. And in college, I am the head coach, the GM, the disciplinarian, the everything. So the buck stops with me. So you kind of get to, you kind of get to mold your program the way you want to mold it, as opposed to somebody telling you maybe this guy is the best fit for you. So no, I get to go find the groceries and then go cook the groceries at the same time.
I love it. So that autonomy, I'm sure, is a huge difference. You have a team, if you will, of management in the NFL, as opposed to here where you kind of get to, lay down the lay of the land and kind of say what needs to happen and what goes. I love that. Raider Nation is in the chat heavy. I said I wasn't going to read the chat too much because I wanted to respect Coach's time, but I got to acknowledge the fans are watching. Thank you. Corfax says, what do you think about Mike Tomlin's legacy in the NFL? We're talking a little bit of Grambling, but y'all want to talk NFL Raiders. It says, 𝙊𝙾𝙾, let's go. Yes, sir.
Well, I'll say this about, I'll still tell you this, what Mike Tomlin has done has just been phenomenal. The guy's never had a losing season. It's really interesting because those teams in the AFC North, they've done a great job of giving their coaches what they've needed to be successful, other than one particular place. And I won't talk about it much, but if you look in Cincinnati, my best friend Marvin Lewis was there for 17 seasons, I believe. John Harbaugh has been at Baltimore, and I worked there with him for, I think he's been there for 16 or 15 seasons. You see Mike Tomlin, he's been there for 15, going on 16 seasons, whatever that is. That says a lot. That says that there is the right people and they're aligned correctly and the collaboration is right. And those are the programs that win. And so I get it. But at the same time, I think that what Mike has done is he's shown African Americans that if you get with the right people and the right opportunity, that great things can happen.
Absolutely. I think there's a wonderful legacy that has been created, and I'm grateful again. Thank you, everyone. This is the head coach of Grambling State University, y'all. Show some love, and I thank you guys for the super chats and for all of your comments here. I'm not going to be able to read all of them, but shout out to DL Saint 20 on the super chat says, I see you, Suzette. bringing the fire. Great content. Thank you so much for supporting DL. Thank you so much. And I thank Coach Hue Jackson for being here. So, Coach, as we shift back to Grambling, I know there's Raiders in the building, and I know everybody else wants to congratulate you and acknowledge your wonderful history in the NFL. But now, as Grambling State University's head coach, talk about what are some of the things as far as like the first of all, I was watching your Instagram and I was watching practice. Okay. Now I played my little high school basketball and all that, right? But I can only imagine what it's like. Talk a little bit about the conditioning and your approach to conditioning, et cetera, for the young folks that you're going to be coaching.
I truly believe that conditioning is the cornerstone to victory. And you have to be in championship shape to enable to have a chance to have a championship team. There's no team that can play as hard as I think we need to play if you're not in great shape. So Coach Nathaniel Leonard, who is my strength and conditioning coach, he's done a phenomenal job this offseason of getting our guys ready. Matter of fact, we just talked about an hour ago about the progress that we have made in our lifting and our running. And there's been some huge jumps by our players. And I can't take that credit. He has to take that credit because he's created the environment. My job is to push and push and push. And then his job is to take it over the top. And he's done that. So it is important. The conditioning piece of it is where it starts. And that's why the strength coach is so important. He's normally the first guy you hire because he touches the team before any of the other coaches can ever touch the team. So it's so important to have the right guy in place. And I truly believe we do.
That's awesome. So let's back up a little bit. You previously talked about, or I had probably mentioned to you, recruiting and the differences between SEC and all these other conferences with the SWAC conference, et cetera. What is your philosophy when it comes to recruiting? I know you had mentioned there are so many great players that came out of HBCUs. Now, do you look more at the high school level? Are you looking at transfer level? What is your philosophy and how do you make sure they sign that dotted line?
Oh, absolutely. Our philosophy is pretty simple. We want to build our program with high school kids. And in order to do that, we have to be very, very active in the state of Louisiana first and foremost. You have to build a pipeline in your own backyard to get guys to want to stay home because that's who the state, they know who those players are. So we have to do a great job that way. Then you have the other relationships that you've built throughout the country that you can then go, like we signed a good class from California because I'm from California. And I have some relationships there. So guys are wanting to come to Grambling, but you have to have these high school kids because you spend more time with them than you would with the transfer portal kids because they're in the portal because something didn't go right at a particular place they were, or maybe they wasn't happy, maybe they wasn't playing enough, but you don't get to recruit them at the level you recruit the high school kids. So you may not get to know them as well. And so I kind of liken this a little bit to the National Football League, because they draft them, and then they have, you can trade them, you can cut them, there's a lot of
no scholarship for you. Like, trust me, pressure.
And Suzette, it's become that way because of all these NIL deals, that are out there now for the student athletes,
For people that don't know the name, image, likeness, can you explain a little bit real quick for people who are not familiar with it?
Yeah, so players are now able to be paid for the name, image, and likeness. And the coaching staff has nothing to do with that. The university has nothing to do with that. So a player can go and stand in a jersey, his jersey number, but it can't be from Grambling, and say, I'm so-and-so, so-and-so, rep a company, rep a sponsor, and be paid for that. And so I think that's great. I think it's great that our student athletes are getting paid some of the money, because when you look at what the Power 5 schools are making, they're making billions of dollars.
Yes. I mean, I had a problem with it, Coach. I had a problem with it. I didn't play collegiate athletics, but just how much money universities make versus what the players get. Yes, you get a degree. I get it, but no. Some of them, this will be their only chance. They will not make it to the NFL. So I'm with it. I'm glad to see the change. People have asked me as an attorney would I want to represent them. Like, I'm not doing that area of law right now, but I think it's a great opportunity. But yes, you guys have to manage egos. You guys have to manage men who are now making an income. and
Absolutely.
not just basing, this on a scholarship. And it does, I think, change the dynamic in terms of your coaching and approach to the personalities I'm sure you're coming into.
You know,
So,
it's that we have to handle those things the right way, because when you think of
yeah.
it, there's some schools where these student athletes are making more money than the position coaches.
Woo.
Some of them making more money than some of the head coaches.
Yeah, I
And
bet.
so you have to handle these things the right way, or else it could get out of whack very quickly.
Yes.
But I think that's why I think you're hearing that the coaches would love to be a little bit more involved in it,
Hmm.
because it's really taken out of our hands. We can't have anything to do with it. But at the same
Yeah,
time, we have to coach that student athlete and get him
exactly.
to go to class and do the right
And
things.
do what
And
you tell them to do. Let's go.
that's right.
Coach, I
Call it
got
like it
money. I'm not
is.
coming to practice. I got money.
That's right.
Yeah, I can imagine that is a very unique scenario to have to balance, where now you got young men who are making money, feeding families, doing other things outside of just going to class. So it's a
Right.
very interesting topic, y'all. I'm very glad John Tay Gray says to see legendary Black players and coaches going back to HBCUs and seeing the value in those systems. Let me ask you, when you talk about recruiting, do you see a difference in the level of the person who is interested in and commits to an HBCU versus, I believe the term is FBS
Yes.
college?
Yeah. The Power Fives. I don't.
Okay.
It's about opportunity. There's players that get overlooked, just like
Yeah.
there's players that get overlooked in the National Football League. There's
Yeah.
players who could play at Power Five schools that are playing at HBCUs. There's players at HBCUs that can play at Power Fives. They're football players. It's
Yeah.
what you're looking for. But the difference between the two is just the resources.
Yeah.
And what's happened is,
Opportunity.
back in the day when this all started, the HBCUs was seen as the dominant place to be.
Yeah.
And what we didn't do way back then is grow,
Yeah.
right? So then the Power Five schools, I mean, I hate to say it, but you take the old coach that was at Alabama, he's seen those guys from USC and say, wait a minute, I got to get me some of those on my team.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what he did. And then all of a sudden
Exactly.
it went
Our
and
level goes
grew.
down. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
our level went down. Instead of us growing and becoming like the Power Fives, we kind of stayed where we were.
Yeah.
And then they took off. And then the TV ratings, as you know, that's where all the money comes from.
Yeah.
They're making their money from TV, endorsements, sponsors. We're talking about billions of dollars. With the HBCUs, it comes from the state level. It
Yeah.
comes from
It's
other
uneven playing
programs.
field. Yeah. Boosted.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're going to talk about you raising money because I know that's a part of head coaching responsibilities.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, is that a lot of pressure? Because that it goes back to funding. When people see head coaches, they don't realize, yes, you coach student athletes, but again, you meet with a lot of other alumni in order to try to garner support, garner dollars for
Hmm.
programs. Do you enjoy that part of the job? And shout out to Nelson Counseling 999 on the super chat, bringing boss moves, bringing in Coach Jackson today. Thank you, Nelson Counseling. Wonderful brother in the YouTube space talking mental health. Had a wonderful show
Mm.
with him called Mental Health That Men Hide. Go back and watch it on the Suzette Speak Show. Love you, Nelson Counseling. Thank you for the support. But as far as the fundraising aspect, that part of college football coaching, what are your thoughts towards that?
Suzette, I've enjoyed it because I'm pretty transparent. If you're going to do for us, I want to salute you, recognize you, have you be a part of what we do. Because I think that's so important. People want to know where their dollars are going. So if I'm going to ask, I'm going to be very forthcoming about what I need it for. I don't think you take people's money and then decide what you're going to do with it. That's when people don't want to give. So I think if you're very transparent, this is why we need this money. We're trying to move the program forward in these areas, whether it's resources for training room or nutrition or travel or whatever that is. And then you let people know where their dollars go.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people get this money and then all of a sudden they don't tell people what their money's doing. My disappointment is when I hear that Coach Sanders, who's a good friend, is going to pay half of his salary to finish his weight room at Jackson State.
Wow.
That makes no sense to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, now kudos to him. He can do it. Guy's an NFL Hall of
He got a
Famer.
couple dollars. Yes.
Yeah, tremendous coach and a tremendous person. But at the same time, I would think what he's done there, I mean,
He
he's
shouldn't
put
have to.
Jackson, yeah,
Yeah,
he's put Jackson State back on the map. Why does he need to do that?
yeah,
Well, that tells you that there's a problem somewhere,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, that we're not doing what we need to be doing to move our programs forward. Because if we're having to fix those things, then the rabbit hole is even deeper than that.
Absolutely. Coach Hue Jackson's letting us see behind the curtain a little bit into his life now as the head coach of Grambling State University. I want to ask you about that because, again, the fundraising seems to be, I know, in bigger colleges, it's huge. Tell me about Grambling's facilities. Are they up to par? Do student athletes get the world class or at least comparative experience that other schools offer? Was that an issue? Was that a challenge for you?
It's a
What did you step
challenge.
into in terms of facilities?
It's not where it needs to be. I'll be the first to tell you that. I don't run from that. That's something that we need to change. And my ask has been that we need to do more. I mean, Grambling has been the Pied Piper of the HBCUs for so long. We can't stay and rest on where we were way back when Coach Eddie Robinson was the head coach. Okay, we've moved on. This is 2022, you know, and I have a big vision. My vision is for our student athletes to have the best of everything. Why not? Why can't Grambling State University student athletes have the best at everything like the FBS schools? They should. Why shouldn't they? We have enough alumni and there's enough Black money in this world to move this forward. Now we need to ask for it the right way. And like I said, we got to be very transparent about what it's for. Look, at the end of the day, let's just be real. Everybody needs some write off for something, you know? So here, why not give
Give it
back
to
to your
us.
school?
Let us put it to
Yeah.
good use.
Why not
Like,
give it back to your school and be
yeah,
proud and be able to
yes,
say, I've done something to help move the needle and move Grambling State University forward? And I
yeah.
think that is important for alumni and boosters and people who are involved in our program.
Yeah, people got to see where their money goes. And I think it's
Mhm,
important that they're good stewards from your office to the financial aid to the finance office everywhere on
mhm.
campus so that once people do commit and they, hopefully will start seeing change, the Graham fam will, want to engage more from the top to the little guy, the giver
Yes.
that says, okay, I can give 25 bucks,
Hmm.
so you want to, keep that at the heart of, we're being good stewards of your money. So please, guys, support. I think this head coach wants to put it to good use. I see another super chat. I might drop the link just for maybe the last 10 minutes to see if anybody else has questions for you. I know you are probably very proficient on the hot seat. I don't think it's anything you would be able to handle, sir, with all due respect. But I have so many questions there. Aside from the coach yourself, do you believe Coach Pep Hamilton deserve? Okay, y'all all in the NFL. Come on now. What do you think, sir?
That's a great question.
Okay, go ahead.
There is no question. He should already been a head coach. When
Mm,
you go back and look at Coach Hamilton's track record when we were coming up, I was in Cincinnati, he was in Indianapolis. We were the only two minority play callers in all the National Football League.
mm.
And he was phenomenal and is phenomenal. And then, you know, he goes a couple places. We were together in Cleveland. He's now at Houston. But all people got to do is go look at what he's done in the National Football League. What he did in San Diego with that rookie quarterback, that hadn't been done before. And it was done by him. And the fact that he's a coordinator at the Houston Texans tells you all you need to know. There's no question in my mind that he should have already been a National Football League coach, and he will be soon because he's one of the best coaches I've ever been around. Uh-oh, I can't hear you for
NFL
some
needs to
reason.
get it
Okay.
together. That's all. Okay, I'll leave
Yes.
it there, Coach. Thank you, guys. This is Coach Hue Jackson, the one and only, stepping into fill large shoes at Grambling State University, and he's talking a little bit about his coaching philosophy, what he's seen since he's come in, what he's hoping to do. Yoda Darnell, thank you for the super chat. Say good luck, Coach Jackson. from a former G-man. Okay, let's
All
go
right.
in the building. Thank you so much, 𝙊𝙼𝘾 for showing some love. Hi to all my y'all regular. We got important guests, so I'm gonna say quick highs to everybody. Thank you for coming in. Andre say, "Wow, what up, Coach Hue Jackson?" Sandy B on the super chat. Thank you so much. Says, "Love hearing Coach Jackson speak. Is there any programming to educate the players on how to handle NIL deals as far as financial education?" Hello, how many of us seen those NFL even specials about people that go from, hero to zero and end up broke? This is a great question. Fellow lady lawyer wants to know: is there any kind of education going into helping these young people handle their finances and even their estate planning properly? Do you know of any?
That is an unbelievable question. There's a group of people, because there's a lot of collective groups around the country that are handling these NIL deals. They try to do a good job of training these players, and even the universities try to do a great job of training these student athletes. Now we can do that. And the reason why it's so important, because there's taxes and all those things involved that these young student athletes know nothing about. They have no clue about any of that. And
Yeah.
so you have to make sure that they understand that, $100 is not $100. You didn't make $100. There's taxes on this money, and they can get themselves in a lot of trouble if the money's not being pulled out the right way. So the collectives have tried to make sure they handle that on the front end. I don't know if that's happening at every school, but I know at our school, we're trying to do everything we can to educate, even make our student athletes take a class that deals with financing so they understand how to handle this money.
Super important, Coach. I'm grateful that to hear that Grambling State University is a step ahead of many probably in trying to address this. The NIL is a new frontier for everyone. So having the opportunity now for young people to make money while they're actually in school and still playing on scholarship is going to be a challenge for some time to come. So I wanted to pivot to we talked about you raising money. We talked about facilities and things that you want to improve. I would love to hear more about where you would like to see the program go. Because I know this is your first year, your first season, 2022, stand up, but you're never going to see Rome built in a day.
Right.
And we want to kind of see your vision. So maybe you don't have all the pieces right now, right? Did you get to
Hmm.
recruit this class
Oh,
of
yes.
so you got
Oh,
to
yeah.
recruit this? Okay,
Yes.
yay. So
So
you
my
have your hand in it.
goal, yeah,
Yes.
my goal when I came in was to flip the roster. I,
Mm,
I I truly believe in that, and not so because I didn't think there was talent there. I thought there was people who wanted to play different positions, wanted to go somewhere else. Once I knew that was the case, then I wanted to do everything I could to put a different mindset on the football team. I want people who want to be there, understand what being a G man is all about, understand the grind, and be able to wear that. Like you say, the shoes I got to wear, the players wear those shoes too, because there were some great teams in the past, and that's not for everybody. So we set out to go find G-man that I felt. We built a profile and went to go look for those players. Where I think we're headed is I want to restore the rich history, tradition, and winning, and build something that's sustainable for years to come. This is year one. I know what I want it to look like. I want winning. I want to be standing, hopefully, in that celebration bowl at the end of the year. Because if you don't chase greatness,
yeah,
okay, then how can you get there?
yeah.
If I chase it and I fall on something that may be a little less than there, I know at some point in time I'm gonna get there. So you have to chase the championship. And if we don't, then I think I'm the wrong person. And that's all I
Mm.
think about, dream about when I see everything I do, the decisions I make for Grambling is about ending up in that celebration bowl and winning that game.
I love it. Guys, you can hear the passion. I know great expectations are upon you, sir. So I know there's a lot of pieces moving. I'm glad to hear that you got to recruit your own class. So that
Hmm.
way you see the building blocks, in where you want them to go and not just what's someone hands to you, unlike the NFL, which is great.
Hmm.
Um, Talk a little bit about what you're doing beyond the turf. I know you have a wonderful foundation and what caused you to start it and what kind of work do you do through your foundation?
Well, I saw that there was a real problem in our society. Human trafficking, it affects everybody. It's over every race, every social economic group. It doesn't discriminate from anything. And I wanted to make an impact. Myself and my family, we said, hey, look, we want to make an impact on this. How do we go about doing it? I was a head coach at Cleveland, tremendous platform. We partner with the Salvation Army. We build a housing facility there. It is still there. It's still being run. And we've done a great job that way. What we're trying to do is educate people on the differences of human trafficking and somebody just being being pimped or whatever you want to call it. And I thought it was so important for people to understand it because it's totally different. People needed to really grasp what that is. I mean, there's people taking people across state lines. And what's really interesting is at more sporting events that this happens more than anything. And so I wanted to make an impact. We've made somewhat, just a little impact, but there's so much work still to be done in this area.
Wonderful. Human trafficking is very serious. Being from the state of Florida, trust me, when it's Super Bowl time and things like this, even through our corridors and I-4 corridor, which is the main road
Hmm.
from like Tampa to Orlando through there, it shocked me, Coach, when I looked at the numbers of how many people get caught up and snatched and all these other things and taken away from their families by these horrible, exploiters of human bodies. So grateful that you are using your foundation to bring light to that and hopefully awareness so that we can stop it and hopefully intervene in a major way in bringing down the numbers. I'm
Yes.
grateful that you're doing that type of work. We're talking football, we're talking about life. I want to ask you a little bit more about some of the key players, Coach, that you see. I don't know, can you call out a few names that we can
I'll,
look forward to seeing on the turf? Again, I know coaches may not want to be partial because the entire team, I'm sure are wonderfully proud of as y'all prepare for an incredible season. But, who are some players to look for this season?
I'll talk about two of our players that I had at the SWAC Media Day the other day. We had Tyler Thomas, who's one of our offensive linemen. I am very partial to him because he's a hard worker. He's passionate. He's uber intelligent. Football is so important to him. Academics is so important to him. He embodies everything I think you need in a G man. And I was excited to have him there, and he represented us well. Another young man is Joshua Reed, who's our linebacker on defense. Again, they have all the characteristics that you look for in student athletes and how important wearing that uniform for the G man is and where they want this program to go. So there were two guys that I took to the SWAC Media Day. I would talk about those guys from now to the end of this podcast because they've been outstanding, great leaders of our football team. But at the same time, we want to continue to grow leaders on our football team. And I don't care if you're a young guy, old guy, it doesn't matter to me. There's a certain way that we're going to conduct business. And those guys that do, they will step to the front.
That's wonderful. I think, we all want the highlighted names, but we always want to acknowledge that it's a team effort, right? Special
Hmm.
teams, everybody got to be on the right page
Yes.
to get victory. So I want to pivot a little bit, and I think my guest wouldn't mind you guys if you came up. So in the last few minutes we have about 10 minutes, guys. I would love to open up a call in. So I dropped a link in the chat. So if you guys want to come in with a brief question, Coach, my channel supporters here, we are 4,200 plus strong.
Oh,
And Team
yes.
Replay, shout out to you. Hit the like button if you're just joining. Again, my special guest one on one tonight with Grambling State. I say Grambling. I know it's the way we say Grambling, but Grambling, I was trying to enunciate, but I still say Grambling. But Grambling State University head coach Hue Jackson, former NFL coach, talking about his journey now as the head coach of this storied football program, collegiate football program. I want to talk a bit about what I mentioned at the open, which is that a lot of young men, especially African American men, are from the time that they're little inundated with messages about how the only way out of their circumstances, and many of them do come from very difficult circumstances across the country, from Miami to New Orleans and, and everywhere in between.
Mhm.
We have communities across this country where, unfortunately, young men are fed only one idea of success, which is making it to the National Football League, the NBA. You can fill in your sport. How do you, coach, approach this reality of, the dichotomy of strength and focus and belief in oneself versus the reality that majority, like only 1%, actually do make it?
Absolutely.
Majority will not. How do you keep your players grounded so that the men that I know, that I spoke about on my last show, that I see even now, 10, 15, count them up, 20, 25 years later, are still, heartbroken and defeated, a lot of them, because they never made it? How do you get your players, I'm asking you 10 compound questions, but but ready for life while still, making them hungry for, the task at hand, which is to win football games? How do you balance that, coach?
Suzette, it's really interesting because team sports teaches you a lot of different things, right? In order to be a part of a team, there's so many values that you learn. There's so many things that you'll take with you. I think everybody understands that everybody can't play in the National Football League. I
Mm.
mean, it is what it is. But if
But do
you
they?
are,
Do they really?
they
They
do,
do?
but
Okay.
they have a passion about wanting to have that opportunity. And I don't
Mm,
think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think you ever kill a dream, right?
mm,
But why not introduce them to who the next best mayor is, the next best lawyer, the next best, and show them who's also been successful,
yeah.
who's left Grambling State University that was gonna be thought they were gonna go into the National Football League, and they pivoted and they became the best attorney in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a lot to sell so guys can understand that if they really look at it, because we've all heard this for years, that the average in the National Football League is 3 years. Well, if that's what you're talking about, I would think everybody gets that. Now, wait a minute. Do I
Yeah.
really want to go do that? Or I can go do this for 25 years, for 30 years, or for the rest of my life. And you have to be realistic. And again, this is all about being transparent with these young men and being very honest. And I think people, when you're honest and upfront with them, they get it. I think
Yeah.
when you keep selling that dream, oh, you got a chance. When you have no chance, you're really hurting the student athlete because
Absolutely. So
because they
I'm
need to go
glad
to
to hear.
class and take care of business.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear Coach emphasizes, hey, this is the most important thing for you today.
Hmm.
But there's more to life. When you see
Oh,
these young
wow.
men out here on this field, it's like I sense their passion and they want to feed their families, honestly. That's why they're there.
Hmm.
And everybody wants to be the winner. But we got a tough season, Coach. I want to ask you about the tough season too. Shout out again to the one and only Coach Hue Jackson, now head coach of Grambling State University in Louisiana. We're talking about his road to becoming a coach. Everybody's asking, why Grambling? Why now? There's every other school you could have gone to, coach. Before we talk schedule, why Grambling?
As I said earlier, why not? When I thought of the other opportunities that I might have had, they didn't have the rich history and tradition of Grambling State University. They didn't have an already established Gram fam and pipeline and a support system that really should be in place.
Yeah.
And that all I needed to do is go do one, hire a great staff, make sure you put the right people around you, create the right team and the right infrastructure for our players,
Yeah.
and then go get it. And I just thought things that were important to me, talking to the athletic director, talking to the president, I thought we had the right vision
Mm,
because they want to bring Grambling State University football into the 20th century. Well, that's what I want to do too. I mean, in order to do that, there's some things that have to change, and I think they will in time. But I think we're headed in the right direction.
I love it. Y'all, he could have been at any team he wanted, y'all. But y'all here to hear as to why this program suited him the best. So I saw that question come up again. And thank you guys who are just tuning in. Coach, Hue Jackson, one-on-one tonight on the Suzette Speaks Show. I see a couple of great questions, and we're going to wrap. But Core, facts, great question. Thank you. Says, what percentage of coaching is spent being a father figure outside of football with the players? Again, kind of to my questions prior, Coach, when it comes to a lot of these young men not having that, fatherly role model. Some do, of course, but a great percentage of them will look to you as a kind of role model, deep in a sense, beyond football. What percentage? I don't know how you calculate it, but what percentage would you say might be spent in that role outside of being at practice, et cetera, et cetera?
And it might be shocking, but it's about 60%.
Wow.
Because you have to understand, and you said it best, some of these young men don't even know who their dads are. They haven't had a male figure to really lean on. And the person that they did lean on was their high school coach.
Yeah.
And so when they transition to your school, you become that particular person. And I think it's the biggest role that I play.
Wow.
And you have to always be available. And I don't have there's no appointment to come see me. You walk in, my door is open. If a player comes into a meeting, we stop the meeting. The player is the most important person we have on campus. My phone is always on. Now I might not wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever that is, but immediately the next morning, I'm making that call as fast as I can because there's a reason why the player called. And there's been some very emotional things that have happened already since I've been at Grambling, and I get it. But I would think every player that would tell you, coach has been there with me every step of the way.
That's
because
amazing.
I think it's that important.
60% of the time, Coach, I am like wonderfully shocked. I'm like, wow, you spend a lot of time with them on life skills, on just understanding what to be, what it takes, to be a man. And I'm really big on that here in terms of our personal development. We want to make high value men, but high value men starts with what, everybody? Character.
Yes.
Character is the most important thing.
You talked about somebody that you had a show with in the mental health space.
Yes.
The one thing I would say to every school, they need to have a mental health specialist on campus and on call whenever needed, because some of the things that these young men have been through, some of the things these young men have seen, it is so important that we help them now instead of waiting to help them later on.
Crucial point, Coach. And I can imagine, because again, everybody doesn't come from a bed of roses and life can be very difficult. We had a young man, I rest in peace, a young man who was recruited. This might have been like right before pandemic, 2-3 years ago. Oh my gosh, maybe during pandemic, who high school student walked in front of a train. And I just remember thinking the amount of pressure, and I knew the family, the small community down here in Miami, amount of pressure that are on these young men's shoulders to become successful, to provide, to be the ticket out. It's a lot of pressure. And I'm sure with the money now from the NIL and all that, even more so now, mom is needing the money like now. Grandma them need the house like now. And so this is kind of almost like a premature manhood, like where they are still figuring out who they are as men and trying to develop their life plan. And people are actively expecting them to like financially support them. So there's a lot there. And I agree with you wholeheartedly with the mental health piece, because I'm sure they are facing a lot more challenges than we can even imagine when it comes to playing at that level, as well as dealing with family and friends, and even the transition to college. Don't forget that. That's huge. Understanding how to live on one's own. They said this generation don't know how to do laundry that well. So I don't know. There's so many parts of daily living that you take for granted. But again, they're young people. They're just now getting out of their parents' homes and understanding what it is to be an adult. So I can imagine, and thank you for being that mentor beyond the turf, so that people can get the full development of the human being. So Coach, before we sign off, I was looking at the schedule, and let me put it back up here, and y'all hit the like button. We have one tonight, the one and only Coach Hue Jackson, talking about his nonprofit, talking about his role now as head coach at Grambling State. Let me take off this banner so people can see. So what are you looking forward to, Coach? I know this is kind of the best image, but Are there games that you have already circled on the calendar? Are there games that you have already talked to them to let them know, hey, this right here, we got to make sure this is going to be a W? Talk to us a little bit about the schedule.
Well, Suzette, the schedule obviously was already in place before I got there. We play 6 games on the road to begin with. We're the road warriors to begin. Then we play 3 at home, and then we finish with 2 on the road. So I understand the schedule. Uh, every game is circled for us. We're Grambling. So we understand the challenge. I understand this business. My job is to teach them this business as well, because it's about wins and losses. It's not about anything else. But when I look at the schedule, it's a great schedule. It's an opportunity for us to go and showcase our talent and ability. We start with Arkansas State. We end up in the Bayou Classic, which is one of the biggest college football, historical Black college football games in the history, which is the Bayou Classic. So we're looking forward to the start and we're looking forward to the finish. But I really feel good about our opportunity to go and get Grambling State back to where we need to be, which is winning among the elite in the HBCU space.
Let's go, coach. I feel the fire. Let's go. I want to ask you about legacy and shout out to everybody in the chat. They're like, wow, Coach Jackson in the house. Yes. Thank you for showing some love. Everybody, make sure you leave a comment. If you're watching Team Replay, go back and leave a comment after you finish the stream. I've enjoyed this conversation again, learning more about you, your philosophy, and what you plan to do. So 5 years from now, even beyond, when we talk about coaching legacy, when we talk about you making an impact and leaving an imprint on this storied program, what would you like people to be saying 5 years from now?
That Coach Jackson went back and restored and awakened the sleeping giant at Grambling again, that they're back. And it's been sustainable over years. They're graduating a high rate of their student athletes. They're fighting for the championship every year, and every student athlete that wants to come to Grambling State University and be a part of it.
I love it, coach. I'm going to wish you well. Guys, I'm still so ecstatic. This happened. Check them out. Support them this season. Support this amazing human being who happens to be the head coach now at Grambling State University, not only on the field, but his charity as well. I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say as we get into the season. What you're most excited just to start playing? What are you most excited about?
I'm most excited about training camp beginning to start
Ooh.
into something special. You've now had the off season, you had a spring, an off season, and now it's game time. Now it's about what happens between the white lines, and that's where I do my best work.
All right, coach. Well, we're going to leave it there. I want to thank the one and only Coach Hue Jackson for granting me this interview right here. Y'all, this is a big deal. Hit the like button, share it, comment, and show some love. I hope you will watch his journey. I know I'll be tuned in. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for making this episode of the Susan SB Show so momentous and so special. Good luck. And I want to thank you again for joining me. Y'all check him out. He's on social media. He has a fantastic foundation, as you talked about, helping to bring light to human trafficking and much more in store. We all know, Coach, this is going to be like an interesting one. Now you're going to be against your brothers from the NFL. So it's going to be a lot of bragging rights on the table. So we will stay tuned. And again, everybody out there, thank you so much. Oh, one more super chat. Thank you, Marcus J. CFA. Marcus J. Gatson, CFA, showing love, saying, wishing you the best, Coach Jackson. I know we know what you're saying, Coach Hue, Coach Jackson. We know what you mean. And thank you, everybody. Much respect to you, my brother, for making time for us tonight. Good meeting you. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope to see you again.
And best wishes to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Coach. All the best for a great season. You take care. Bye now.
Bye-bye.